Matthew is a 27-year-old journalist who has worked tirelessly to become a reporter for night news on the American Broadcasting Channel. After years of covering significant stories, he finally secured a position as the live correspondent for the primetime news show right before the 9 o'clock drama. His job is to report live from various locations, be it concerts, fairs, protests, or any place with breaking news. Over the years, Matthew has become a familiar face to the public, often recognized in supermarkets and restaurants. However, he never imagined that his television fame would bring such turmoil to his life, leading to a live on-air dismissal and subsequent legal troubles. Matthew grew up in a loving home with his adoptive parents, Linda and David. They never hid the fact that he was adopted, and it was never a contentious issue. Linda and David assumed that one day Matthew might seek out his biological family and were always supportive of that potential journey. However, Matthew's life as their only child was so fulfilling that he never felt the urge to look for the family that had given him up. Having been adopted as a baby, he had no memories of his biological family or the orphanage. Throughout his journalism career, Matthew has encountered many stories of orphans and knows he was fortunate to be adopted by such a stable and loving family. His adoptive parents were financially secure, enabling him to study at prestigious schools, learn multiple languages, take swimming lessons, and travel extensively. His childhood was filled with love and opportunities. Even though Linda and David couldn't have children of their own due to Linda's uterine issues and David's sterility. From a young age, Matthew discovered his passion for writing and communication. It wasn't long before he decided he wanted to become a reporter, perhaps even an anchor one day. His parents were thrilled with his ambition and supported him every step of the way. Matthew's hard work paid off when he was accepted into one of the country's most competitive journalism programs at the University of California. Throughout his studies, he honed his writing and communication skills, participating in numerous extension projects that showcased his talent. He graduated with honors and quickly began working for various newspapers and online news outlets, eventually landing his dream job as a live correspondent for the American Broadcasting Channel. Initially, Matthew covered minor stories for local news segments, but his charisma and dedication to uncovering the most engaging aspects of each story soon earned him a spot as the live correspondent for the channel's flagship news show. Though his early live reports were nerve-wracking, he soon grew comfortable, especially knowing that viewers appreciated his work. His fan base grew significantly once he became the official live correspondent, and he began to be recognized on the streets and received many compliments for his performance. One day, after being approached by an elderly woman in the supermarket who praised his work, Matthew realized how well his life was going. His professional career was thriving, and he was happy with his girlfriend, Emily, who was also a journalist at the American Broadcasting Channel. Returning to the newsroom to catch up on the latest stories, Matthew was shocked to learn about a new serial thief terrorizing the city. Several women reported being robbed by a masked man who took their jewelry and everything in their purses. This thief targeted only women, and his victims, all between the ages of 50 and 60. described feeling intense fear and humiliation during the robberies. The newsroom was abuzz with efforts to gather more information about this elusive criminal. The thief had been careful not to show his face, but the experienced journalists believed it was only a matter of time before he made a mistake. Eventually, a breakthrough came when one of the latest victims fought back and managed to remove the thief's mask. Getting a good look at his face, the police were working on a composite sketch based on her description, which would soon be released to the public in hopes of identifying the man. Matthew was relieved at the prospect of these robberies coming to an end, particularly because he feared for his mother, Linda, who, although not fitting the physical profile of the thief's typical victims, was in the age range he targeted. He shuddered at the thought of his mother going through such an ordeal and was determined to see the thief caught. The newsroom confirmed that the composite sketch would be available for that evening's news broadcast, just before Matthew's live segment. He was excited because this meant the viewership would be high, potentially making his segment one of the most watched of his career. For the first time in a long while, he felt a nervous excitement before going live. Positioned outside the stadium, where an international superstar was set to perform, Matthew was ready with fans lined up behind him. He had selected a couple of enthusiastic fans to interview live and was waiting for the anchor in the studio to cue him in. He knew the sketch would be shown just before his segment, ensuring high viewer engagement. As he listened to the anchor announce the forthcoming composite sketch, Matthew could feel the anticipation build. The anchor urged anyone who recognized the man to call the number displayed on the screen. Without seeing the broadcast images himself, Matthew relied on his earpiece for cues. He could imagine the sketch on the screen, giving viewers time to study it. In the control room, the producer watched the sketch on a small monitor to direct the live segment smoothly. As the producer glanced at Matthew, his expression changed to one of utter confusion. Matthew, oblivious to the reason for this reaction, assumed the sketch must look quite bizarre. The plan was for the sketch to be shown and then transition to Matthew's live report for a lighter segment. However, the transition had an unintended and shocking effect. When the broadcast switched from the sketch to Matthew's live report outside the stadium, it became glaringly obvious the face in the sketch was Matthew's. The anchor, unaware that his microphone was still on, exclaimed, "Oh my God, it's him. Matthew is the thief." With his face on the screen, Matthew appeared puzzled and looked towards the producer, who was still in shock. The anchor received a message from the news director and abruptly interrupted Matthew's segment. He announced that Matthew no longer worked for the American Broadcasting Channel, effective immediately, citing the undeniable resemblance between the sketch and Matthew. The anchor further stated that the network did not condone Matthew's actions. Matthew, still bewildered, saw two police officers approaching him. At that moment, the live feed cut back to the newsroom. The police, already on site for crowd control, were informed of the sketch's release and Matthew's sudden identification as the prime suspect. The officers quickly moved in to prevent the crowd who had seen the broadcast from turning hostile. Escorted to the police car, Matthew was taken into custody, still in disbelief over the sudden turn of events. At the station, he was shown the composite sketch. The resemblance was uncanny. The drawing captured his facial features in minute detail. Matthew couldn't fathom how a woman he had never met could describe his face so accurately. During the initial questioning, the detective asked if Matthew recognized the face in the sketch. Without thinking, Matthew said yes, and the detective asked if that was a confession. Matthew vehemently denied it, insisting he had never robbed anyone. Nonetheless, the sketch depicted his face so precisely that the detective remained skeptical. Matthew was placed in a lineup with other men who resembled him, and he knew the victim was on the other side of the one-way glass. Nervously, he hoped she would say he wasn't the thief. Despite his confidence in his innocence, the victim confirmed that Matthew was the man who had robbed her. As a result, Matthew was formally charged and held in custody. Allowed a phone call, Matthew contacted his parents for help. By then, Linda and David had already heard about his arrest. Having seen the live broadcast, they had quickly hired a family lawyer who rushed to the police station to speak with Matthew. The lawyer, upon arrival, asked Matthew point blank if he had committed the crimes. Deeply offended, Matthew emphatically denied it. The lawyer then explained that they needed to prove Matthew was elsewhere during at least one of the incidents. If they could establish his alibi for even one of the robberies, it would be crucial, particularly with the assault on the woman who identified him. Reviewing the list of robbery dates and times, Matthew realized that he had been live on air during at least two of the incidents, including the one involving the woman who identified him. There couldn't be a more solid alibi than that. In less than an hour, his adoptive parents were at the station requesting to speak with the detective. Despite his initial reluctance, the detective agreed to hear them out. Linda began by revealing that Matthew was adopted, which seemed irrelevant to the detective at first. However, she then disclosed a crucial detail. When they adopted Matthew, they were informed he had an identical twin brother. The detective began to see the potential significance of this information, but remained cautious, suspecting it might be a plot to exonerate Matthew. Linda and David explained that when they decided to adopt Matthew, the social worker informed them about his twin brother, who had been taken back by their biological mother. They felt guilty knowing they had given Matthew a life of privilege while his brother, Andrew, had likely struggled. Matthew had always known he was adopted, but his parents never mentioned his twin brother, thinking it might complicate his feelings. The detective listened, now more intrigued, especially when the lawyer confirmed Matthew had been live on television during two of the robberies. Not wanting to release the only known suspect so easily, the detective decided to investigate Andrew, but kept Matthew in custody for further questioning. The following days were a media frenzy for Matthew. Some colleagues from the channel spoke out about him, and his name was all over the news. Emily, though supportive, faced backlash at work. She and Matthew had been the power couple of the newsroom, and their relationship now seemed doomed. After a few days, the police located Andrew, confirming he indeed existed and had a history of petty crimes. In an odd twist, Andrew seemed almost pleased with the recognition, mocking Matthew's comfortable life. When asked about the robberies, Andrew's smirk suggested guilt, but he never directly confessed. During the lineup process, the victim identified Andrew without hesitation, much to Matthew's relief. Despite their physical resemblance, she confidently chose Andrew, prompting his arrest. Even though Andrew never admitted guilt, the evidence against him was sufficient for a trial. Matthew was released, but faced the daunting task of rebuilding his tarnished reputation. The network initially refused to rehire him, but after a compelling interview where he explained his twin brother's involvement, they reconsidered. With Emily's unwavering support, Matthew slowly regained his career momentum. Despite lingering suspicions from some viewers, his talent and dedication to journalism helped restore his credibility. The traumatic ordeal also led him to reconnect with his biological roots and explore his identity beyond his career. The investigation into Andrew revealed the stark differences between the twins' lives. Matthew's career had its ups and downs, and he felt grateful for his adoptive parents' love and support. Realizing the profound impact they had on his life, reconnecting with his biological family brought both joy and pain, but it helped Matthew understand himself better. Years later, Matthew became a prominent journalist and advocate for adoption and family support, sharing his story to inspire others. He never fully reconciled with Andrew, who remained distant and bitter. Nonetheless, Matthew's journey from betrayal to redemption strengthened his bond with his adoptive parents and his new family with Emily. Despite the challenges, Matthew emerged stronger, using his platform to make a difference and support others facing similar struggles. His story, marked by unexpected twists and profound resilience, continued to inspire those who heard it, showcasing the enduring power of love, family, and the pursuit of truth. After his release, Matthew faced a challenging path to restore his reputation and reestablish his career. The emotional interview he gave right after his release had a significant impact, but it wasn't enough to completely erase the suspicions many still harbored. With Emily by his side, he began rebuilding his life, one step at a time. Matthew realized that his story had great potential to help others. He actively started getting involved in social causes, especially those related to adoption, family support, and the rehabilitation of ex-prisoners. He believed that his personal experience could shed light on the importance of a strong and compassionate support system for people in vulnerable situations. His first major initiative was to organize a series of documentaries about adoption and the orphanage system in the United States. He wanted to showcase the stories of children who, like him, were fortunate enough to be adopted by loving families, but also those who were still waiting for a family. The project was a success, gaining media attention and winning several awards. During the filming, Matthew met numerous adoptive families and children in orphanages. One of these children, a boy named Tommy, caught his attention. Tommy was 10 years old, with a bright mind and a passion for painting. However, he had been through a series of foster homes and was struggling with feelings of abandonment and insecurity. Matthew felt a deep connection with Tommy, seeing reflections of his own past in the boy's eyes. He decided to mentor Tommy, spending time with him, encouraging his artistic talents, and sharing his own experiences. This mentorship blossomed into a profound friendship, and eventually Matthew and Emily decided to adopt Tommy, providing him with the stable, loving home he had always longed for. As time went on, Matthew's efforts to reform the justice system gained momentum. He worked with several nonprofit organizations to advocate for the rights of wrongfully convicted individuals. His speeches and appearances brought attention to the flaws in the legal system and the importance of fair trials and proper legal representation. Matthew also started a foundation that provided legal assistance to those who couldn't afford it, aiming to prevent others from experiencing the same ordeal he had. The foundation quickly grew, attracting support from high-profile lawyers and activists who were inspired by Matthew's story and mission. In addition to his advocacy work, Matthew returned to writing. He penned a memoir detailing his journey from a wrongfully convicted man to an advocate for justice. The book, titled Unbroken Chains, became a bestseller and was praised for its raw honesty and inspirational message. The memoir not only recounted his personal struggles, but also highlighted the broader issues within the criminal justice system, calling for comprehensive reforms. The success of Unbroken Chains led to invitations to speak at various universities, conferences, and even before Congress. Matthew's articulate and heartfelt speeches moved many to action, contributing to significant policy changes and increased funding for legal aid programs. Despite his busy schedule, Matthew never lost sight of his personal life. He and Emily continued to nurture their relationship, finding strength in each other through the challenges they faced. Adopting Tommy brought them even closer, creating a bond that was both resilient and tender. Emily, inspired by Matthew's dedication, pursued her own passion for social work, focusing on child welfare and family support. She played a crucial role in the foundation, offering counseling and support to families and children in need. Together, they became a formidable team, driven by a shared purpose and a deep love for each other and their son. As the years passed, Matthew found peace and fulfillment in his work and family life. He remained committed to fighting for justice and supporting those who, like him, had been wronged by the system. His journey from a wrongfully accused man to a beacon of hope for many was a testament to the power of resilience, love, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. Through his foundation, documentaries, and public speaking, Matthew left an indelible mark on society. His story inspired countless individuals to stand up for what was right, to fight against injustice, and to believe in the possibility of redemption and second chances. In the end, Matthew's life was a powerful narrative of transformation and triumph, a story of how one man's struggle could lead to profound changes in the world around him. His legacy was not just in the lives he touched directly, but in the broader movement for justice and compassion that he helped ignite.